What if everything you believed about getting old was wrong? Evelyn sat quietly in her worn-out recliner, the morning sun casting long shadows through the thin curtains of her small living room in Cedar Falls, Iowa. She stared at the flickering screen of her aging laptop, mesmerized by the glowing headline flashing across the news website, Elon Musk's breakthrough AI could rewrite human potential. The video embedded below showed Elon Musk, that relentless innovator who had reinvented industries over and over, speaking with his usual sharp intensity, "We're at the edge of something that can change what it means to be human. The future is not just for the young." Evelyn blinked, feeling a curious knot tighten in her chest. She had spent most of her life believing that by her age, 68, her best years were behind her. That the world had moved on, and she was just a fading footnote. But as Elon spoke with that spark, a defiant hope stirred inside her, like the faintest ember waiting for a breath to ignite. "What if I'm not done yet?" she thought. The house was silent except for the hum of the computer and the distant chirp of birds outside. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for the remote to switch off the news, but she hesitated. That one sentence echoed, "The future is not just for the young." The phrase wrapped around her heart like a whispered promise. For years, Evelyn had felt the creeping weight of invisibility. Friends had passed on, her children had grown distant, and every day seemed to blur into the next, marked only by quiet meals and the slow ticking of the clock. She remembered the mornings when she would wake full of dreams, eager to start writing that novel she'd always talked about but never dared to begin. Now, the pages remained blank, the words locked inside her mind like a secret treasure buried deep. "Is it too late?" she whispered aloud, her voice cracking with a mixture of regret and longing. Outside, the world seemed to move faster than ever. Technology buzzed in ways she barely understood. Elon Musk's name had become synonymous with the impossible: rockets to Mars, electric cars, neural interfaces. Somehow, his relentless drive reminded her of the dreams she once had, the courage she once carried. She typed the phrase into the search bar, "Elon Musk AI breakthrough." A dozen articles appeared, each promising a new frontier where machines and humans could collaborate in ways that could change creativity, learning, even aging itself. She clicked on a podcast link titled "Elon Musk on Defying Limits at Any Age." His voice filled the room, clear and urgent. "Most people think you're done when you get old. I say you're just getting started. Fear is a compass, pointing you to where you need to grow. Don't let society put a timeline on your life." Evelyn felt a lump form in her throat. Those words weren't just for tech geniuses or young entrepreneurs. They were for her. For all of them who felt left behind, forgotten, or too old to change. She glanced at the faded photo on the mantel, her late husband, smiling warmly, holding her hand. A wave of loneliness washed over her, but beneath it, something steadied. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to rewrite her own story. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitant but restless. Then, with a quiet determination, she began typing her first sentence on a newly created blog page: "I'm Evelyn, 68, and I'm not done yet." She paused, then added, "This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?" Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. As she hit publish, a strange thrill coursed through her veins. It wasn't just words on a screen. It was a declaration, a rebellion against the silence and stillness that had settled around her. Outside, the sun climbed higher, flooding the room with golden light. Evelyn leaned back, closing her eyes for a moment, letting the possibility settle in. The moment it all changed wasn't marked by fireworks or grand events. It was this quiet decision to believe, just a little, that age was not the end of the road, but the beginning of something new. The digital clock on her desk ticked forward, relentless and unyielding, but for the first time in years, Evelyn felt like she was moving too. Somewhere, in the vast sea of online voices, someone might read her words and feel the spark. Maybe a fellow traveler who thought they were too old to dream, too tired to try, would see that it was never about age. It was about courage. Her heart beat faster as she imagined the possibilities, a life where she wasn't invisible, where her story mattered. And maybe, just maybe, where she could finally finish that novel, powered by the very technology Elon Musk was unveiling to the world. She whispered to the empty room, "I'm ready." This was not the end of her story. It was the first page of a new chapter, written with hope, with fear, but above all, with the fierce belief that she still had time. Time to change. Time to grow. Time to matter again. Evelyn had lived in Cedar Falls her entire life, a town where the seasons marked the years more clearly than any calendar. Her house was a modest single-story with peeling paint and a garden that hadn't seen much care since her husband, Robert, passed 5 years ago. She moved slowly through the rooms each morning, the ache in her knees reminding her of the years she had stacked behind her. The walls were crowded with memories, old photographs in faded frames, a dusty collection of books that once fueled her passion, and trinkets from a life that felt more like a shadow now than a reality. Once, she had been a librarian, known for her gentle smile and endless curiosity, the person who could always find the perfect book for a wandering soul. But retirement came quietly, and with it, a slow shrinking of her world. The library was now run by younger faces she barely recognized. They spoke fast, their eyes glued to screens, and Evelyn often wondered if she still belonged in a world that raced ahead without her. Her son, Michael, had moved to Chicago years ago, chasing his own dreams in tech startups and business ventures. Calls had become infrequent, sometimes weeks or months apart, filled with polite catch-ups and brief reassurances that he was too busy to visit. The last time she saw him was on her birthday 2 years ago. He had rushed through the door, eyes fixed on his phone, cheeks pale with exhaustion. The hug he gave her felt distant, like an obligation rather than love. She missed the warmth, the closeness they once shared, but the silence between them grew heavier with every passing day. Evelyn carried regrets like old scars. Regrets for the daughter she never had, for the friends she lost to time and illness, for the dreams she tucked away in the attic of her heart. She had always wanted to write a novel, a story about love, loss, and redemption, a tale woven from the threads of her own life and imagination. But every attempt to start the first page was met with hesitation and doubt. She told herself she was too old, that the world had no use for stories from someone like her. The pain of those lost dreams settled deep, like a quiet weight pressing on her chest. Some nights she would sit by the window, watching the stars flicker in the dark sky, wondering if her life was just a series of missed chances and faded hopes. The loneliness was sharpest in those moments, a cold companion that whispered she was invisible, forgotten. One memory haunted her more than others, a summer day nearly 50 years ago when she and Robert sat by the riverbank, young and full of possibility. He had handed her a blank notebook, the first page inscribed with a single phrase, "For the stories only you can tell." They had laughed together, dreaming of the future, but life had pulled them in different directions. That notebook lay buried under a stack of papers in the attic, untouched and gathering dust. Evelyn reached for a small photo on the mantel, a younger version of herself, smiling brightly beside Robert, their eyes full of hope. She traced the edges with trembling fingers, feeling the distance between who she was then and who she had become. The house felt emptier without his presence. The routine of her days was a fragile attempt to hold on to something familiar. She made her bed with care, brewed her coffee just the way she liked it, and took slow walks down the quiet streets lined with maples turning gold in the fall. But the sense of purpose that once guided her had dimmed, replaced by the creeping thought that maybe her best years had passed. Evelyn was not alone in this feeling. The world around her seemed to move faster, voices growing louder and more disconnected. She watched neighbors hurriedly get into their cars, young families bustling with energy, and wondered if she was invisible to them, a relic of a slower, gentler time. Even technology, which promised connection, often felt like a barrier. Her phone was outdated, and the few times she tried to navigate social media, the screens overwhelmed her with endless feeds and unfamiliar jargon. The fear of being left behind was real and heavy. Her doctor, a kindly man named Dr. Patel had recently given her a stern warning about her health. "Evelyn, you need to slow down," he said during her last visit, pointing to her blood pressure readings. "Stress and overexertion can be dangerous at your age." His words felt like a command to retreat, to step back and accept limitations. But inside, Evelyn rebelled. She wasn't ready to fade away quietly. Her loneliness was interrupted only by visits from a few old friends who still lived nearby. Mary, her closest confidant, was a retired schoolteacher with a sharp wit and an infectious laugh. They shared coffee every Tuesday, reminiscing about days when the world seemed full of endless possibility. Yet even Mary confessed her own fears of becoming irrelevant. "Sometimes I feel like a ghost," Mary said one afternoon, staring out the window. "Like nobody sees me anymore." Evelyn nodded, feeling the truth of it settle between them. Yet, beneath the surface, there was a flicker of defiance, a refusal to give up completely. That's when the news about Elon Musk's AI breakthrough appeared, a sudden ripple in her stagnant pond of routine. The headlines promised a future where technology wasn't just for the young or the brilliant, but for everyone willing to embrace it. Elon's voice, fearless and unapologetic, echoed in her mind, "The future is not just for the young." Evelyn found herself drawn to his relentless energy and refusal to accept limits. He wasn't a man defined by age or fear, he was a symbol of radical possibility. The idea that someone could reinvent themselves, challenge norms, and push boundaries at any stage of life struck a deep chord. Could it be true? Could she, Evelyn, a woman who had long stopped believing in second chances, find a new beginning? That night, she pulled out the old notebook Robert had given her. The pages were yellowed, the ink faded, but the potential was still there. She opened to a blank page and traced the words, "For the stories only you can tell." The room was quiet except for the ticking clock and her own steady breathing. She closed her eyes and made a silent promise, to herself, to Robert's memory, to the woman she used to be and the one she could still become. Tomorrow, she would take the first step. The fear was still there, but it no longer held her hostage. It was a challenge, a compass pointing toward growth and change. For the first time in years, Evelyn felt a flicker of hope ignite in her heart. The past weighed on her, but it no longer defined her. The life before the shift was one of regret and retreat, but the life ahead held something new, a chance to rewrite her story. And maybe, just maybe, to find herself again. Evelyn woke that morning with a heaviness she had come to know all too well. The sky outside was gray, thick clouds blotting out the sun, mirroring the fog that clouded her mind. Is it too late? The question circled relentlessly, an echo she couldn't shake. Her body felt slow and tired, and her spirit, despite yesterday's spark, wavered under the weight of doubt. The voice of her son Michael lingered in her memory from their last phone call. "Mom, you need to take it easy. You can't keep pushing yourself like this." His tone was gentle but firm, as if he was warning a child. That phrase stung because Evelyn knew it wasn't just about her health, it was a coded message: "You're done. You belong in the past." The thought made her chest tighten. She loved Michael, but his concern sometimes felt like a tether holding her back rather than a lifeline. Society's whispers echoed louder in moments like these. The world seemed to agree that after a certain age, people should slow down, step aside, and make room for the young. They didn't say it aloud, but Evelyn could hear it in the silence of conversations, the hurried glances when she tried to join in, the dismissive smiles when she spoke about her ideas. She remembered the doctor's warning again. "Slow down," Dr. Patel had said. "You're not as young as you think." It was a phrase that felt less like medical advice and more like a verdict. Yet deep inside, a quiet rebellion stirred. The flicker of hope Elon Musk's words had sparked was not ready to be extinguished. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through social media, a landscape that felt foreign and overwhelming. Elon Musk's latest tweets flashed across her screen, each one a challenge to conventional thinking. When others say it's impossible, that's when you double down. The word struck a nerve. Doubt clawed at her, but somewhere beneath it was a pulse of defiance. She wasn't ready to give up, not yet. Evelyn thought about her late husband, Robert. He had always believed in her, even when she didn't believe in herself. His faith had been a shield against the world's doubts. Now, with him gone, she was left to face her inner war alone. The battle inside her was raw and relentless. Every morning brought a fight between despair and hope, between the pull of old fears and the promise of something new. Sometimes, the loneliness felt unbearable, like a vast ocean threatening to swallow her whole. Yet in those dark moments, she clung to the small sparks. Elon's voice, the blog post she had published, the memory of Robert's encouragement. But there was more. The conflict wasn't only internal. It spilled into her relationships. When she shared her blog with Mary, her closest friend, Mary shook her head. "Evelyn, why waste your time with this? Nobody cares about what an old woman has to say these days." The words were blunt and hurtful, but Evelyn saw the fear behind them, fear of change, fear of standing out. At the grocery store, she overheard younger shoppers whisper about those old folks who think they can keep up. The sting of invisibility was sharper than any physical ache. Even Michael was skeptical. When he read one of her blog posts about using AI tools to help with her writing, he sent a short text, "Mom, I just want you to be safe. Don't get too caught up in things you don't understand." It wasn't criticism, it was worry, but it felt like another barrier. Evelyn wanted to scream, to tell him she was not done, that she was still here, still fighting. But the words caught in her throat. She feared pushing him further away. The question of purpose haunted her. What was the point if no one believed in her? If the world had moved on without her? Yet amidst the storm of doubt, Elon Musk's presence remained a beacon. A podcast clip she had saved played repeatedly in her mind. "The greatest breakthroughs come when you refuse to accept the limits others impose on you. The question isn't, can you, but will you?" The voice was like a lifeline. If Elon could defy industries, push humanity toward Mars, challenge every notion of what was possible, then maybe she could defy the limits of age and fear. That night, as the house grew quiet and the shadows deepened, Evelyn made a choice. She opened her old notebook, the one Robert had given her decades ago, and began to write. The words were shaky at first, raw and imperfect. She poured out the tangled mess of regret, hope, fear, and defiance. She wrote about loneliness, about the invisible battles of aging, about the desire to matter again. Tears blurred her vision, but her hand did not stop. Writing became her battleground, a place where she wrestled with the inner war and refused to surrender. She realized that this fight was not just for herself but for every person who had been told they were too old to change, too tired to dream. The battle was brutal, but in that struggle lay the seed of transformation. Evelyn's mind churned with questions and contradictions. Was she chasing a foolish dream, or was this the spark that could light a new fire? Could she really learn to use AI tools, to navigate a world that seemed designed to leave her behind? The fear was real, but so was the possibility. The choice was hers. The dawn came slow, breaking through the darkness with soft light. Evelyn felt the weight of the night's battle settle into a fragile calm. She was bruised but not broken. The inner war would rage on, but now she had a weapon, hope, and a guide in the form of Elon Musk's relentless challenge to the impossible. The question no longer felt like a prison. It was a call to arms. Will you? Evelyn's fingers hovered over her keyboard once more. She was ready to fight, to change, to begin again. The war within was far from over, but for the first time, she believed she could win. Evelyn's hands trembled slightly as she closed her laptop after posting her latest blog update. The small but bold choice she had made to finally publish those raw, honest words felt like stepping off a cliff into the unknown. She had always thought the first step would be grand, a new job, a big trip, a complete reinvention, but instead, it was this quiet moment of vulnerability, sharing her story with strangers online. The notification ding from her inbox startled her. a message from an unexpected source, a woman named Lisa from Colorado who had stumbled upon Evelyn's blog. "Your story gave me hope today," the message read. "I'm 70 and thought I was done too. But you reminded me it's never too late. Thank you." Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. A thread of connection had formed, fragile but real. That small interaction ignited a spark she hadn't felt in years. She realized that the one thing she changed was simply the decision to be seen, to share her truth, and to reach out rather than retreat. Inspired by Elon Musk's example of relentless innovation, she decided to take a next step. She would learn how to use AI tools to help her finally write that novel she had dreamed of for decades. The idea terrified her, but Elon's voice echoed in her mind, "When you face fear, you face growth." The following morning, Evelyn walked to the small public library, a place that once felt like home but now felt foreign. The bright fluorescent lights, the hum of computers, the quick pace of young patrons rushing to check out the latest bestsellers, everything reminded her of how far she'd fallen behind. But she carried her notebook and a quiet determination. She approached the librarian, a young woman named Clara, and explained her goal. "I want to learn about AI tools for writing." Clara's face lit up with enthusiasm. "That's amazing. We have a workshop starting next week. I'll sign you up." The workshop was a mix of curiosity, confusion, and wonder. Evelyn sat among a diverse group of learners, many younger, some retired, all eager to understand how AI could help with creative writing. As the instructor demonstrated how to generate ideas, organize plots, and overcome writer's block using AI, Evelyn felt like a door was opening inside her mind. The technology wasn't a barrier, it was a bridge to her creativity, a tool to bring her stories to life. Back home, she set up a small writing nook by the window, where sunlight streamed in and warmed the dusty pages of her notebook. Each morning, she devoted time to learning, experimenting, and writing. The AI assistant became her collaborator, suggesting ideas when her mind faltered, helping her find words that had been trapped inside. It wasn't perfect. There were moments of frustration and self-doubt, but Evelyn kept pushing. Elon Musk's relentless spirit fueled her resolve. She reminded herself that failure was part of the process, an essential step toward breakthrough. Simultaneously, she reached out to Michael with a new approach. Instead of demands or complaints, she sent a simple message: "I'm trying something new. Would you like to read some of my writing?" The response came slower than she hoped, a hesitant "sure" that opened a fragile door. When Michael finally read her first chapter, his reply surprised her: "Mom, this is really good. I didn't realize you had this in you." For the first time in years, a genuine conversation blossomed between them. Michael asked about her process, about the AI tools she was learning, and even offered to help with technical questions. The barrier that had seemed so insurmountable began to crumble. Encouraged by this breakthrough, Evelyn pushed further. She joined online communities of older writers and tech enthusiasts, exchanging ideas and support. The isolation that had once surrounded her was breaking apart. Her blog gained more readers, people inspired by her honesty and courage. Comments poured in, stories of late bloomers, second chances, and the fierce refusal to fade away quietly. Each message was a lifeline, a reminder that she was part of something bigger. Evelyn's daily walks became a ritual not just of physical movement but of mental renewal. She would pause to notice the changing leaves, the scent of rain on pavement, the warmth of a stranger's smile. These simple moments grounded her, reminding her that life was still vibrant, still unfolding. The small garage behind her house, once cluttered with forgotten tools and old boxes, transformed into a creative workshop. She set up a desk, a whiteboard, and a corkboard filled with story ideas, timelines, and character sketches. The space buzzed with possibility. Friends like Mary noticed the change. One afternoon, Mary said, "I don't know how you do it, Evelyn. You're like a different person." Evelyn smiled, feeling the truth in the observation. It wasn't magic. It was a choice, the decision to fight despair, to embrace technology, to reach out and risk vulnerability. The biggest test came unexpectedly. A health scare sent Evelyn to the hospital, and as she lay in the sterile room, weak and uncertain, the old fears threatened to swallow her. Would this setback erase all her progress? But even there, she found strength. The doctors praised her for the active lifestyle she had adopted, the mental engagement, and the positive attitude that fueled her recovery. The experience deepened her resolve to live fully, to keep pushing boundaries. When she returned home, Evelyn published a new blog post titled, "How I Almost Gave Up, and Why I Didn't." The post resonated widely, sparking conversations across social media and drawing the attention of a local newspaper. An interview followed, and Evelyn found herself sharing her story on the radio, her voice steady but filled with emotion. She spoke not as an expert or a celebrity but as a woman who had chosen to fight, to change, to embrace the unknown. "I was never too old," she said in the interview. "I was just waiting for permission to matter again." The phrase echoed beyond her small town, reaching ears and hearts she never imagined. Evelyn's transformation wasn't about radical overnight change. It was about small, consistent steps. Learning a new skill, reaching out to a loved one, sharing a story, and refusing to be invisible. Elon Musk's breakthrough in AI was more than just technology, it was a symbol of what was possible when fear gave way to courage. Evelyn's journey was proof that the rules could be rewritten, that age was not a barrier but a doorway. Each day brought new challenges and doubts, but Evelyn met them with growing confidence. She was no longer the woman who sat quietly in the recliner, fading into the background. She was a creator, a learner, a storyteller. The legacy she was building was not measured by fame or fortune but by the lives she touched, the barriers she broke, and the courage she inspired. In the quiet moments, she would sometimes look back on the moment it all changed, the flicker of hope sparked by a headline, the whispered promise that the future belonged to those who dared to keep dreaming. She was still here, still growing, still becoming. And that was enough. Evelyn sat in her little writing nook, the soft glow of the desk lamp casting long shadows on the walls. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, the cursor blinking patiently on the blank page. She took a deep breath, feeling the mixture of excitement and vulnerability that had become a familiar companion. Tonight, she was finishing the first draft of a story she had carried inside her for decades, the story of love and loss, hope and redemption, of a life rediscovered. The journey to this moment had been long and winding, filled with small victories and setbacks, moments of doubt and bursts of courage. She thought back to that night when she first opened the old notebook Robert had given her, the pages yellowed but full of promise. The promise she had almost forgotten but now clung to fiercely. Then came the blog, the workshop, the tentative steps into AI-assisted writing, and the reconnected threads with her son Michael. Each piece had brought her closer to breaking through the wall of silence and invisibility that had defined so many years. The sound of a notification pulled her from her thoughts, a new comment on her blog. She clicked it open. "Your story gave me the courage to start my own writing journey at 68. Thank you for showing it's never too late." A warmth spread through her chest. The words were simple but powerful. They were proof that her voice mattered, that her struggle and triumph reached beyond her own four walls. But breaking through wasn't just about reaching others. It was about breaking through her own barriers, those internal walls of fear, regret, and self-doubt. She remembered the nights spent wrestling with the question, "Am I enough?" The nights when the ache of loneliness was almost unbearable. The nights when she considered giving up and slipping back into invisibility. But she didn't. Instead, she leaned into the discomfort, fueled by a vision of a future she could still create. The breakthrough came not as a single dramatic moment but as a crescendo, a collection of small victories that added up to a new reality. One afternoon, as she read aloud a chapter of her draft to Michael over video call, she felt a shift. His eyes brightened, his questions became genuine, and his encouragement heartfelt. "Mom, this is really something. You've got a gift." The words made her eyes well up. It wasn't just praise, it was recognition, a reconnection that filled a void she hadn't fully acknowledged. The breakthrough rippled outward. Her blog posts gained traction, attracting a community of late bloomers, dreamers, and believers. Comments poured in, stories of personal reinvention, tales of fighting ageism, and heartfelt thanks for the reminder that life didn't end at 60 or 70. The virtual community became a lifeline, a place where Evelyn's voice was not just heard but celebrated. At a local event, Evelyn was invited to speak about her journey. Standing on the small stage in front of a modest crowd, she felt the old nerves but also a new strength. She shared her story candidly, the loneliness, the regrets, the fears, and the choices she made to fight back. "I was never too old," she told the audience. "I was just waiting for permission to matter again. I gave myself that permission." The room was silent, then filled with applause. Among the listeners was Clara, the young librarian who had signed her up for the AI workshop. Clara approached afterward, eyes shining. "You inspire me, Evelyn. You remind me that courage comes in many forms." Evelyn smiled, the words a balm to her soul. The breakthrough was also deeply personal. One morning, Michael surprised her with a visit. They sat in the garden, surrounded by the scent of blooming flowers and the gentle rustling of leaves. For hours, they talked, not as mother and son divided by years and silence but as two people rediscovering each other. Michael shared his own struggles and fears, and Evelyn listened with open heart. The visit was a healing balm, a reminder that transformation rippled through relationships as well as self. But the breakthrough wasn't without its shadows. There were moments of exhaustion, moments when the old fears whispered louder than the new hope. There were days when her body rebelled, when pain and fatigue threatened to pull her under. Yet even then, she clung to the breakthroughs, the small wins, the connections, the growing belief that she was still becoming. One evening, as she reviewed feedback on her draft, Evelyn paused on a message from a reader who had lost a spouse recently. "Your words gave me comfort and courage to face tomorrow," it read. Tears blurred her vision. This was more than she had hoped for. She realized that breaking through was not just a personal triumph but a gift shared with others. Evelyn understood something profound, that the act of breaking through was itself a process, not a destination. It required persistence, vulnerability, and a willingness to be imperfect. It meant facing the darkness and choosing to light a candle anyway. The breakthrough was both a revelation and a commitment. To keep moving forward, to keep telling her story, and to keep inviting others to do the same. She thought of Elon Musk, the man who had sparked her courage with his fearless mindset. His breakthroughs in technology were monumental, but Evelyn saw the deeper lesson, the courage to defy limits, to embrace uncertainty, and to keep pushing even when the odds seemed impossible. Her own breakthrough was smaller in scale but no less powerful. It was a testament to the human spirit's capacity for renewal, no matter the age or circumstance. As the weeks passed, Evelyn's writing took shape into something she had never imagined possible, a manuscript filled with wisdom, hope, and authenticity. She began to think about what came next. Publishing? Sharing her story beyond the blog? The idea was daunting, but the breakthrough had changed her relationship with fear. It was no longer a jailer but a signal to proceed. One quiet morning, Evelyn walked to the riverbank where she and Robert had once dreamed of the future. The same notebook lay in her bag, now filled with new stories and ideas. The water sparkled under the sun, a reminder that life was always moving, always renewing. She sat on the old bench and opened the notebook. For a long time, she simply watched the river flow. Then, with steady hands, she wrote a new line at the bottom of the page: "This is just the beginning." Evelyn knew the road ahead would have challenges, but she no longer feared them. The breakthrough had given her not just a new chapter in her life but a new lens through which to see the world. She was no longer a passive observer of time passing, she was an active creator of her legacy. And in that truth, she found peace and purpose. The breakthrough was more than a moment, it was a transformation, a ripple that spread from her heart to the hearts of others. It was the living proof that age was not the end but a new horizon, waiting to be embraced. Evelyn sat quietly in her favorite armchair, the afternoon sunlight filtering through lace curtains and casting delicate patterns across the worn upholstery. The house, once echoing with silence and loneliness, now felt alive with possibility, a reflection of the transformation within her. She traced her fingers along the spine of the manuscript resting on her lap, a tangible testament to a journey that had begun in doubt and despair but blossomed into hope and purpose. As she looked back on the path she had traveled, Evelyn realized that what she once believed to be the end was actually the beginning of a new legacy, one she was still writing every day. The idea of legacy had always seemed distant, something reserved for the young and the famous, not for a retired schoolteacher in a small town. For years, she had felt invisible, a ghost drifting through the margins of family gatherings and neighborhood conversations. But now, her legacy was not defined by grand achievements or wealth, but by courage, connection, and the refusal to fade quietly. It was in the stories she shared, the lives she touched, and the barriers she broke simply by refusing to be invisible. The morning had started like any other, with a cup of chamomile tea and a moment of reflection. Evelyn's phone buzzed softly, a new message from Lisa, the woman in Colorado who had been one of her first online readers. "Just wanted to say your latest post changed my week. Thank you for reminding me to keep going." Evelyn smiled, feeling the warmth of connection that stretched across miles and screens. This was the legacy she wanted, one of hope passed from heart to heart, a ripple of courage that could reach even the loneliest corners. She thought of Michael, now more present in her life than he had been in years. Their conversations had deepened beyond surface pleasantries into genuine exchanges of dreams, fears, and plans. The bridge they were rebuilding was a legacy in itself, a testament to healing and second chances. The house that once felt too big and empty was now a gathering place. Friends and neighbors stopped by more often, drawn by Evelyn's warmth and the stories she shared. Mary, who had once doubted Evelyn's choices, now often asked for advice and eagerly read every blog post. The skepticism had softened into admiration, proof that change was contagious. Evelyn's writing had taken on a life of its own. A local publisher had reached out with an interest in turning her manuscript into a book, a dream she had thought impossible. The idea both thrilled and terrified her. But she remembered Elon Musk's words about facing fear and pushing forward anyway. She decided to say yes, to embrace the unknown and trust the journey. In quiet moments, Evelyn reflected on the lessons she had learned. She understood now that age was not a prison but a doorway. The limitations society imposed were often illusions waiting to be shattered by those brave enough to challenge them. Her own journey was proof that the mind and spirit could grow, adapt, and thrive at any stage of life. She often thought about the moment that had sparked it all, the headline about Elon Musk's AI breakthrough, the voice that dared her to rethink what was possible. It wasn't that she needed Elon Musk to save her, he was the spark, the symbol of fearless reinvention. The real hero was the woman who chose to keep going when everything said to stop. Evelyn's legacy was deeply personal but also universal. It was a message to every person who felt left behind or forgotten: you are not done. You still have value. You still have stories to tell, dreams to chase, and love to give. The future belongs to those who refuse to give up. One afternoon, Evelyn attended a community event where she was invited to speak alongside younger innovators and artists. Standing on the stage, she felt the weight of the years but also the lightness of newfound purpose. She shared her story candidly, blending the struggles of aging with the triumphs of transformation. Her words were met with nods, smiles, and tears. Afterwards, a young woman approached her, eyes shining with gratitude. "You showed me it's okay to start late, to keep learning, to keep dreaming. Thank you." Evelyn felt a surge of emotion. This was her new legacy, lived out loud and shared freely. Back home, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she sat by the window and penned a letter to her grandchildren. She wrote about the importance of courage, curiosity, and kindness. She told them to never let fear dictate their path and to remember that every day was a chance to begin again. The letter was a gift, a seed planted for the future. In the quiet moments before sleep, Evelyn often revisited the questions that had haunted her at the journey's start. "Is it too late?" she whispered to the darkness. And now, with a smile, she answered, "No. It's just the beginning." The new legacy she was building was not about fame or fortune but about the impact of persistence, the power of connection, and the beauty of second chances. Evelyn's story was a testament to the human spirit's capacity to rewrite its own narrative, to transform pain into purpose, and to embrace life with open arms at any age. As she closed her eyes that night, she felt a deep peace, a sense of belonging to a future she was still creating. The moment it all changed was behind her, but the promise of what lay ahead was brighter than ever. Evelyn awoke to the soft glow of dawn spilling through her bedroom window, the familiar creak of the old wooden floorboards beneath her feet signaling the start of a new day. The air smelled faintly of pine from the trees lining her quiet street, a gentle reminder that the world was still turning, still full of possibility. She stretched slowly, savoring the calm that had become a steady companion since her transformation began. Today felt different though, a quiet thrill danced in her chest, an anticipation for what lay ahead. Her manuscript had been accepted by a small but passionate publisher, and the first edits were due soon. The realization filled her with both excitement and nerves. It was the first time she had shared her deepest stories beyond her blog in small gatherings. This was her voice reaching out, making itself heard in a wider world. Evelyn dressed carefully, choosing a soft blue sweater that reminded her of clear skies and fresh starts. She stepped outside, the chill of early morning air biting lightly at her cheeks, and set off on her daily walk. The neighborhood was just waking up. Mrs. Harris from next door was watering her garden, humming softly. A group of teenagers waited for the bus, laughing and jostling one another with the careless energy of youth. Evelyn smiled to herself, grateful to be part of this living, breathing community. Walking had become more than exercise, it was a meditation, a way to center herself before diving into the challenges and joys of creation. She passed the library where Clara worked, waving as she unlocked the doors to greet the day. Evelyn thought back to the day Clara had signed her up for that first AI workshop, a small gesture that had sparked a cascade of change. Technology, once intimidating and foreign, had become a powerful ally. The AI tools she learned to use didn't replace her voice, they amplified it, helping her find words when doubt clouded her mind and shaping ideas when the fog of uncertainty settled in. Returning home, Evelyn brewed a cup of tea and settled at her writing desk, the manuscript open before her. The edits were more than grammatical corrections, they were invitations to deepen her truth, to be even more vulnerable, even more brave. Each suggestion was a nudge toward growth, reminding her that transformation was ongoing, not a destination. As she worked, her phone buzzed with a message from Michael, "Heading your way tomorrow. Got some ideas to help with the tech side. Let's catch up." Her heart lifted. Their relationship was still fragile, but moments like these were building bridges stronger than years of silence. Over the next few days, Michael arrived with his laptop and enthusiasm. Together, they navigated publishing platforms, marketing strategies, and social media. Their collaboration became a new chapter in their relationship, one marked by shared purpose and mutual respect. One evening, after a long day of work, Evelyn stood on her porch watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. The colors reminded her of all the moments she had almost given up, the times when the darkness seemed endless. But here she was, still standing, still dreaming, still creating. The journey had opened new horizons she hadn't dared to imagine. With the book's release approaching, Evelyn was invited to participate in a local radio interview. Sitting in a cozy studio surrounded by microphones and warm lights, she shared her story candidly. The loneliness, the fears, the small decisions that led to big changes. The host asked what advice she would give to others feeling stuck or forgotten. Evelyn replied, "It's never too late to rewrite your story. Age doesn't define your potential." The only limit is the one you accept. Her words resonated with listeners across the airwaves, sparking calls and messages from people inspired to take their own steps toward change. One caller, a man in his 70s who had recently lost his job, thanked Evelyn for reminding him that new beginnings were possible. The conversation rippled through the community, weaving a thread of hope and possibility. Evelyn's days grew busier but no less fulfilling. She balanced editing, writing new blog posts, attending community events, and nurturing relationships that had once felt fragile or broken. The garage she transformed into a creative studio became a sanctuary where ideas blossomed and dreams took shape. Friends dropped by regularly, some to offer encouragement, others to learn about the AI tools that had become so central to her process. Evelyn gladly shared her knowledge, eager to help others discover their own voices. One afternoon, Clara invited Evelyn to lead a workshop at the library for older adults interested in writing and technology. Standing before a room filled with curious faces, Evelyn felt the full circle of her journey. She was no longer the hesitant beginner but a guide, a beacon of possibility. She encouraged the participants to embrace fear, to try new things, and to remember that transformation was possible at any age. The room buzzed with energy and hope, a testament to the power of community and courage. As winter approached, Evelyn found herself reflecting on the seasons of her life. The bitter winters of isolation and regret, the springs of awakening and growth. Each chapter had shaped her, but none defined her entirely. She was more than her past, she was the author of her future. Late one evening, she received an unexpected email. A regional newspaper wanted to feature her story as part of a series on late-life reinvention. The article would reach thousands, shining a spotlight on the quiet revolution of older adults embracing new challenges. Evelyn hesitated, the familiar nerves creeping in. But then she remembered the journey, the breakthroughs, and the legacy she was building. With a deep breath, she replied yes. The article published weeks later, painting Evelyn not just as a woman who overcame obstacles but as a symbol of resilience, creativity, and hope. Letters poured in from readers across the country, some sharing their own stories, others simply thanking her for being a light in the darkness. Evelyn felt the vastness of this new horizon. Connections that spanned beyond her small town, conversations that sparked change in unexpected places. Through it all, she held on to the core truth that had carried her this far: age was not a barrier but a beginning. The world was full of undiscovered possibilities, waiting for those brave enough to seek them. As spring arrived, Evelyn planned a small book launch at the local library, a celebration of not just her work but of every person who had dared to dream anew. The room filled with friends, neighbors, readers, and even strangers whose lives had been touched by her words. She read excerpts, answered questions, and shared laughter and tears. The event was more than a milestone, it was a testament to the power of persistence, courage, and connection. Later that evening, alone in her writing nook, Evelyn penned a new entry in her journal: "The horizon is wide, and I am ready to explore. This journey has taught me that we are never finished becoming. Each day is an invitation to begin again." She smiled, feeling a deep peace settle over her. The moment it all changed was no longer a distant memory but a living, breathing reality. Evelyn's new horizon stretched endlessly before her, bright with promise and possibility. She was no longer waiting for permission to matter. She had given it to herself, and in doing so, had rewritten the rules of what it meant to age, to dream, and to live fully. Evelyn awoke to the familiar hum of morning light filtering through the curtains and the distant chirping of sparrows outside her window. The day stretched ahead like an unwritten page, full of quiet promise and the kind of peaceful anticipation that came after long seasons of upheaval. Her book launch had come and gone, leaving behind a swirl of memories and a deep, satisfying sense of accomplishment. Yet the story was far from over. She now understood that her journey was less about a single breakthrough and more about the ripple effect it created, how one act of courage, one decision to rise, could extend far beyond a single life and touch many others. Sitting at her kitchen table with a fresh cup of coffee, Evelyn scrolled through messages and emails that had arrived since the launch. They were from strangers and friends alike, people from every corner of the country, united by a common thread of hope sparked by her story. There was Margie, a retired nurse from Ohio who wrote, "Your courage gave me permission to start painting again after 30 years. Another email came from Tom, a widower in Arizona, who confessed that reading Evelyn's words had helped him find the strength to reconnect with his estranged daughter. Each message was a testament to the power of vulnerability and the courage to share one's truth. Evelyn felt a deep, humbling gratitude for this community forming around her. It was as though the courage she had mustered in the quiet hours of self-doubt was now a beacon guiding others through their own storms. This ripple effect was the legacy she had never expected but cherished deeply. Inspired, Evelyn decided to create a new blog series, Ripples of Renewal, inviting others to share their stories of late-life transformation and resilience. The response was overwhelming. Stories poured in, a former executive launching a nonprofit at 70, a grandmother who became a yoga instructor, a Vietnam vet who wrote poetry for the first time. The tapestry of human experience unfolded in all its messy, beautiful complexity. Evelyn spent hours each day reading and responding, feeling connected to a larger movement of reinvention and hope. Technology, once a source of anxiety, had become a bridge linking these disparate lives and experiences. She marveled at how AI tools helped her organize stories, generate prompts, and even translate messages from readers around the world. Each technological advance felt like another thread woven into the fabric of this community. One afternoon, Clara stopped by with news. The local senior center wanted to partner with Evelyn to develop workshops focusing on creativity, technology, and personal growth for older adults. The idea thrilled Evelyn. She saw it as an opportunity to bring the ripple effect offline, into real, tangible spaces where people could connect face-to-face, share struggles, and build support. The senior center was a modest brick building, filled with bright rooms and the hum of activity. Evelyn's workshops quickly became a popular fixture, attracting a diverse group of participants eager to explore new possibilities. There was George, a former mechanic who started learning to code, Linda, who began crafting digital art, and Rosa, who rediscovered her love of storytelling. Evelyn loved watching their eyes light up as they navigated new tools and shared their breakthroughs. The workshops were more than classes, they were lifelines. A place where ageism dissolved, replaced by curiosity and encouragement. Evelyn often shared Elon Musk's words about challenging limits and embracing failure as part of the process. She emphasized that transformation wasn't about perfection but persistence. Every step forward, she told the group, is a victory. It's never too late to become who you want to be. Meanwhile, Evelyn's relationship with Michael continued to evolve. He had become an essential partner, not just in navigating the technical aspects of her work but as a trusted confidant. They talked often about dreams deferred and new ones forged. Michael shared his own aspirations of starting a podcast focused on stories of reinvention, inspired by his mother's journey. Together, they began laying the groundwork, excited to amplify voices often unheard. One crisp fall evening, Evelyn attended a community fundraiser where she was honored alongside other local changemakers. Standing on stage, she reflected on the journey, the moments of despair, the sparks of hope, and the steady light of transformation. She spoke about the ripple effect, urging everyone to consider how their own actions could create waves of change. You never know who your courage might inspire, she said. One small step can reach farther than you imagine. Back home, Evelyn curled up with her journal, the pages filled with reflections, ideas, and gratitude. She wrote about how the ripple effect extended beyond her own story to touch entire communities, reminding her that transformation was deeply relational. It was a dance between individual courage and collective support. As the seasons changed, Evelyn noticed new faces at her workshops and on her blog, each person bringing their own spark of hope. The ripple effect grew wider, crossing geographical and generational boundaries. Through this, Evelyn felt a renewed sense of purpose, not just as a writer or teacher, but as a catalyst for change. She understood that her legacy was not a fixed monument but a living, breathing force moving through time and space. One snowy evening, as she sipped tea by the fire, Evelyn received a call from Clara with exciting news. A national nonprofit focused on aging and technology wanted to feature her work in their upcoming conference. The opportunity was daunting, but Evelyn embraced it with the same fearless mindset that had carried her this far. She prepared her presentation carefully, weaving together personal stories, lessons learned, and a vision for a future where age was celebrated as a time of growth and possibility. The conference was held in a bustling city far from Evelyn's quiet town. Standing before a packed auditorium, she felt the familiar rush of nerves mingled with exhilaration. She spoke not just about her own journey but about the ripple effect, how courage, connection, and creativity could transform lives and communities. The audience was captivated, many moved to tears. After the talk, people approached Evelyn to share their own stories, eager to be part of this growing movement. Returning home, Evelyn felt energized and hopeful. The ripple effect was no longer a quiet current but a powerful wave gaining momentum. She thought about the countless individuals whose lives had been touched, some she knew, many she didn't, and felt a profound sense of responsibility and joy. One day, Michael surprised her with a gift, a collection of recorded stories from people inspired by Evelyn's journey, edited into a podcast series titled Ripples of Renewal. Listening to the voices of strangers sharing triumphs and struggles brought tears to Evelyn's eyes. She realized that this was the new frontier of legacy, a mosaic of lives intertwined by hope and resilience. In the months that followed, Evelyn continued to write, teach, and connect. Her days were full but never rushed, marked by moments of quiet reflection and joyful engagement. She embraced the ebb and flow of life, understanding that transformation was ongoing and ever-evolving. Looking out her window one spring morning, Evelyn watched a group of children playing in the park. Their laughter echoed across the green, a reminder of life's endless capacity for renewal. She smiled, knowing that the ripple effect she had sparked would continue long after she was gone. It was a legacy not written in stone but etched in hearts, a testament to the power of courage, connection, and the refusal to be forgotten. Evelyn's story was no longer just her own. It belonged to all those who dared to believe that age was not an end but a beginning, that transformation was possible at any stage, and that one person's breakthrough could change the world. The ripple effect was alive and growing, and Evelyn was proud to be its quiet, steady heart. Despite the growing momentum and waves of encouragement flooding her inbox and social media, Evelyn found herself facing a familiar adversary that no amount of external success could fully erase: the challenge within. The quiet, persistent voice of doubt that whispered, "Who do you think you are? You're too old. It's too late." It was a voice she had battled for years, sometimes winning, sometimes losing. But now, amid her newfound purpose and recognition, the internal struggle felt sharper, more insidious. It crept into her thoughts during moments of silence, casting shadows over her confidence. She wondered if she was just a lucky exception, a brief flicker of light destined to fade as quickly as it appeared. One gray morning, Evelyn sat in her writing nook, the soft patter of rain against the window matching the heaviness in her chest. She stared at the blinking cursor on her screen, the blank page mocking her inability to capture the words swirling in her mind. The pressure to keep producing, to keep inspiring, was exhausting. She remembered a quote she'd once read from Elon Musk: "When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor." But even his fearless mindset couldn't fully silence the voices of fear and insecurity inside her. The phone rang, breaking her reverie. It was Clara, checking in before their weekly workshop. Evelyn forced a smile into her voice and promised to be there. Hanging up, she realized how much she needed the connection, the sense of purpose that came from community. At the senior center, the room buzzed with energy as familiar faces settled into seats, eager to learn and share. But Evelyn's usual enthusiasm was tempered by an undercurrent of anxiety. Midway through the session, a question from George, a reserved participant, struck a chord: "How do you deal with fear when it feels like it's winning?" Evelyn paused, her heart pounding. She admitted honestly, "Sometimes, fear does win. But what matters is what you do next, how you keep moving forward despite it. Her vulnerability opened a door. Others shared their own struggles with doubt and worry, creating a space of empathy and solidarity. That evening, Evelyn sat alone by the fire, reflecting on the delicate balance between courage and fear. She realized that transformation wasn't a linear path but a dance with setbacks and breakthroughs. The challenge within was part of the journey, not a sign of failure. The next week brought a new test. Evelyn received a critical email from a publisher who had reviewed her manuscript and found it lacking originality and unlikely to resonate beyond niche audiences. The words stung deeply. For a moment, the old fears surged, the sense of invisibility, the worry that her voice was too small to matter. But then she recalled Elon Musk's persistence in the face of repeated failures and public doubt. She chose to respond with grace and determination, thanking the reviewer and asking for specific feedback to improve. She shared the experience openly on her blog, inviting readers to reflect on rejection as part of growth. The response was immediate and supportive. Messages poured in from people who had faced similar disappointments but refused to quit. Evelyn felt buoyed by the collective strength of her community. Around this time, Michael proposed a new idea, launching a video series featuring interviews with older adults breaking stereotypes and embracing new challenges. Evelyn loved the concept but worried about stepping out of her comfort zone in front of the camera. Once again, the challenge within reared its head. Would she come across as authentic or awkward? Would her message be heard or dismissed? With encouragement from Michael and Clara, Evelyn agreed to film the first episode. The experience was both terrifying and exhilarating. As the camera rolled, she shared not only her successes but also her fears, doubts, and the messy reality of transformation. Viewers responded with heartfelt comments, praising her honesty and courage. The video series became another avenue to extend the ripple effect, amplifying voices often overlooked. Yet, the internal battle persisted. Evelyn found herself waking in the middle of the night, plagued by questions about whether she was enough, whether her work truly made a difference. She journaled these fears, sometimes turning them into blog posts that resonated deeply with readers who felt the same. One evening, a message arrived from a woman named Denise, a retired teacher in Texas, who wrote, "Your honesty about fear and doubt has helped me face my own. Thank you for showing me that it's okay not to be perfect." The simple gratitude reminded Evelyn that the challenge within was universal and that sharing her struggle was as powerful as sharing her triumphs. Seeking new tools to manage the inner turmoil, Evelyn explored mindfulness and meditation practices. She found solace in daily moments of stillness, learning to observe her thoughts without judgment. This practice didn't erase fear but gave her space to choose how to respond. Slowly, she built resilience from within, strengthening her capacity to face setbacks with compassion. The Senior Center workshops began incorporating mindfulness exercises, deepening the impact on participants who also grappled with fear and uncertainty. Evelyn's leadership evolved from instructor to mentor, guiding others in embracing vulnerability as a source of strength. A turning point came when Evelyn was invited to speak at a regional conference focused on aging and innovation. Standing before a large audience, she chose to begin her talk by sharing her ongoing internal struggles, breaking the myth that transformation meant the absence of fear. "The challenge within is real," she told the crowd. "It doesn't disappear with success. But it doesn't have to stop us, either." The honesty was met with thunderous applause. Many attendees approached her afterward to thank her for giving voice to their own hidden battles. Returning home, Evelyn felt a renewed sense of peace. The challenge within was no longer an enemy to be vanquished but a companion on her journey, reminding her to stay humble, resilient, and true. She understood now that the measure of courage wasn't the absence of fear but the willingness to keep moving forward anyway. Late one night, as she closed her journal, Evelyn reflected on the paradox of transformation. It was both deeply personal and profoundly communal, shaped by inner battles and external support. The challenge within would always be part of her story, but it no longer defined her. She was writing new chapters every day, chapters of hope, resilience, and relentless courage. The ripple effect continued to spread, fueled not by perfection but by the messy, beautiful reality of being human at any age. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The morning sun filtered through the curtains of Evelyn's modest living room, casting soft patterns on the well-worn carpet. She sat at her computer, sipping coffee and scrolling through the day's emails when one message caught her eye, a notification from a LinkedIn connection request. The sender's name made her pause, David Klein, a retired engineer and tech entrepreneur she'd admired from afar for years. David had been a pioneer in Silicon Valley during the early days of personal computing, and his innovative work had laid the foundation for much of the technology Evelyn now used. She accepted the request hesitantly, curious to see if this was a genuine gesture or just another spam invite. Soon after, a message appeared, "Evelyn, I've been following your journey with great interest. Your story resonates deeply with me. I'd love to connect and explore how we might support each other." Evelyn's heart quickened. The unexpected mentor she had long wished for seemed to be reaching out at a pivotal moment. She replied warmly, and within days, they arranged a video call. When David's face appeared on the screen, gray-haired, sharp-eyed, and full of quiet confidence, Evelyn felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. But the conversation quickly settled into a natural rhythm. David shared stories of his own late career reinvention after facing setbacks and burnout. He spoke candidly about the fear of obsolescence and the challenge of staying relevant in a rapidly changing world. Evelyn found comfort and inspiration in his honesty. Over the next weeks, their mentorship blossomed into a dynamic exchange of ideas and encouragement. David introduced Evelyn to new perspectives on technology, entrepreneurship, and resilience. He challenged her to think bigger, to embrace risk, and to harness her unique voice as a bridge between generations. Evelyn shared her experiences with the ripple effect, the workshops, and the community she had helped build. David was impressed by her impact and offered guidance on expanding her reach and deepening her influence. Their collaboration was a powerful reminder that growth never stops, no matter one's age or past achievements. One afternoon, David suggested a joint project, creating an online platform to connect older adults interested in learning new skills with mentors and resources tailored to their needs. The idea sparked Evelyn's imagination. She envisioned a vibrant digital community where age was celebrated as a source of wisdom and creativity, not limitation. They began drafting plans, combining David's technical expertise with Evelyn's deep understanding of the audience's challenges and aspirations. The project became a new purpose, reigniting Evelyn's passion and sense of possibility. As they worked together, Evelyn noticed subtle shifts within herself. The nervousness that had once held her back was replaced by growing confidence. David's belief in her abilities helped silence the lingering doubts that occasionally surfaced. She realized that mentorship was not just about receiving guidance but also about mutual growth and inspiration. One crisp fall day, David invited Evelyn to visit his workshop, a converted warehouse filled with vintage computers, robotics projects, and walls lined with blueprints and inspirational quotes. Walking through the space, Evelyn felt a thrill of belonging and possibility. David introduced her to his team, a diverse group of engineers and artists passionate about creating technology that empowered people of all ages. She shared her story with them, and they listened attentively, eager to contribute their skills to the platform they envisioned. That evening, as Evelyn drove home under a canopy of stars, she reflected on how far she had come from the lonely woman who once doubted her worth and potential. The unexpected mentor had become a catalyst for transformation, not only in her life but in the lives of many others who would benefit from their collaboration. The platform they launched 6 months later was met with enthusiasm and gratitude. Older adults from across the country signed up to learn everything from coding to digital art to entrepreneurship. Mentors volunteered their time, forming connections that transcended age and background. Evelyn hosted live webinars, sharing her story and encouraging participants to embrace the challenges and joys of reinvention. Feedback poured in, filled with stories of newfound confidence, rekindled dreams, and meaningful connections. Evelyn felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The ripple effect she had sparked was now part of a larger wave, powered by collaboration and community. Yet, amidst the success, Evelyn remained grounded. She knew that transformation was an ongoing journey, marked by ups and downs, fears and triumphs. She continued to confront the challenge within, drawing strength from her mentor's wisdom and the support of her community. One winter evening, as snow fell softly outside her window, Evelyn received an invitation to speak at a national conference on aging and innovation, a platform that promised to reach thousands. She prepared carefully, weaving together her own story, lessons learned, and the vision behind the mentorship platform. Standing before the packed auditorium, Evelyn shared not only her triumphs but also her vulnerabilities, the doubts, the fears, and the relentless determination to keep moving forward. The audience responded with standing ovations and heartfelt applause. Many approached her afterward, eager to connect and collaborate. As the event ended, Evelyn realized that her journey was no longer solitary. She was part of a vibrant network of changemakers, each contributing to a future where age was celebrated as a time of growth and possibility. The unexpected mentor had opened doors not only to new opportunities but also to a deeper understanding of herself. Evelyn's story was no longer just about overcoming obstacles but about embracing the endless capacity for reinvention and connection. Late that night, as she closed her journal and turned off the lamp, Evelyn smiled, feeling a deep peace. The ripple effect was alive and expanding, fueled by courage, collaboration, and the refusal to accept limits. She was ready for whatever came next, knowing that with the right support and mindset, every day held the potential for breakthrough. Evelyn's world had expanded in ways she hadn't imagined possible. From the quiet days of doubt and isolation, she now found herself woven into a tapestry of connections that spanned cities, states, and even countries. These bonds weren't just virtual threads, they were lifelines, moments of genuine human contact that fueled her sense of purpose and belonging. One chilly spring morning, Evelyn sat at her favorite cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the crisp air. She was preparing for a virtual panel discussion on the role of community in aging, a topic close to her heart. As she reviewed her notes, her phone buzzed with a message from Rosa, one of the Senior Center workshop attendees who had blossomed into a confident storyteller. "Evelyn, I just shared my story on your podcast. Feeling nervous but proud. Thank you for believing in me." Evelyn smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. This was the power of connection, not just sharing stories, but empowering others to own theirs. The panel discussion brought together diverse voices, activists, technologists, caregivers, and seniors who defied stereotypes every day. Evelyn spoke about the ripple effect and how connection amplified transformation. She shared personal anecdotes about how mentorship, community workshops, and digital platforms had created spaces where age was redefined as a chapter of creativity and contribution. The virtual audience was engaged, sending in comments and questions, many expressing gratitude for having a platform to be heard. After the panel, Evelyn felt energized by the shared passion for building communities that nurtured growth at every age. Back home, she opened an email from George, the former mechanic turned coder. His message was both a thank you and a challenge. "Evelyn, your story helped me start my own app to connect retired tradespeople with youth apprentices. Would love to collaborate." This invitation felt like the next ripple expanding outward. Evelyn arranged a call with George and was inspired by his vision to bridge generational divides through practical skills and mentorship. Together, they brainstormed ideas to integrate his app with the platform she and David had launched. Collaboration became a recurring theme, weaving new patterns into the evolving story. One afternoon, Evelyn visited the Senior Center for a workshop on digital storytelling. The room buzzed with excitement as participants shared videos and blogs they had created, each piece a testament to resilience and creativity. Linda, a former schoolteacher, narrated a heartfelt video about rediscovering her passion for painting. The group applauded, tears glistening in many eyes. Evelyn's heart swelled with pride and hope. These connections were transforming not only individuals but entire communities, breaking down barriers of isolation and fear. Yet, Evelyn knew that connection wasn't always easy. She remembered the early days when technology felt like a fortress too high to climb. Watching participants struggle at first, she empathized deeply with their frustrations. But she also witnessed the breakthroughs, the moment a hesitant hand mastered a touchscreen or a shy voice found confidence on a podcast. These victories, small but profound, illuminated the path forward. As the seasons turned, Evelyn's network grew more diverse and vibrant. She was invited to join a national advisory board focused on aging innovation, where she advocated for inclusive policies and programs that fostered connection and empowerment. Through this role, she met caregivers, policymakers, and technologists committed to reshaping how society valued its elders. Each conversation deepened her conviction that connection was the foundation of transformation. On a personal level, Evelyn cherished the evolving relationship with Michael, whose own journey mirrored hers in many ways. Their shared dreams and collaborative projects strengthened their bond, proving that connection also thrived in the intimate spaces of family and friendship. One summer evening, after a long day of meetings and workshops, Evelyn and Michael took a walk through the park. They paused by a pond where children chased fireflies, their laughter mingling with the soft rustle of leaves. Evelyn reflected aloud, "It amazes me how connection can cross generations, creating a circle that holds us all." Michael nodded, squeezing her hand gently. "It's the thread that weaves us into the fabric of life." Inspired by this insight, Evelyn decided to launch a new initiative, Bridges, a series of community events designed to foster intergenerational connection through storytelling, art, and technology. The first event was held at the local library, bringing together seniors and youth for workshops and performances. The energy was electric as stories were exchanged, friendships formed, and stereotypes challenged. Evelyn watched as a teenage boy taught a retired teacher how to use a smartphone app, while she herself was moved by a grandmother sharing tales of resilience from her childhood. These moments affirmed Evelyn's belief that connection was a transformative force, capable of healing wounds and building hope. Through Bridges, Evelyn witnessed the ripple effect deepen and expand. Participants who once felt invisible found new voices and roles. Communities once fragmented began to knit together with empathy and respect. Evelyn's heart overflowed with gratitude for the power of human connection. Yet, she also acknowledged the ongoing work ahead. Systemic ageism and social isolation remained formidable obstacles. Evelyn committed herself to advocating not only for individual empowerment but also for societal change, using her growing platform to challenge limiting narratives and promote inclusive values. One chilly autumn morning, Evelyn received a letter from a woman named Karen, who shared her story of loneliness after losing her husband. Karen wrote, "Your work gave me courage to reach out and join a local group. I'm starting to feel alive again." Evelyn's eyes welled with tears. This was the essence of connection, not just networks or programs but the profound human need to be seen and valued. As winter approached, Evelyn found solace in quiet moments of reflection. She journaled about the journey from isolation to community, from fear to hope. She understood now that connection was not a destination but a continuous process, a dance requiring openness, vulnerability, and courage. Looking ahead, Evelyn envisioned a world where no one felt left behind or forgotten, where every person, regardless of age, could contribute, learn, and belong. Her story, once a solitary spark, had grown into a blazing fire illuminating the path for many. The power of connection was her greatest breakthrough, a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit and the limitless possibilities that arise when we come together. And in that knowledge, Evelyn found peace, purpose, and the unwavering belief that the best chapters were yet to be written. Evelyn had learned to embrace the present and look toward the future, but the past remained a weight she couldn't fully shed. Memories of lost relationships and missed opportunities lingered like shadows in quiet moments, whispering regrets she tried to silence. One evening, after a busy day of meetings and community events, Evelyn sat alone in her living room, the soft glow of the lamp casting long shadows on the walls. A familiar ache settled deep in her chest, the pain of estrangement from her daughter, Anna, who had walked away years ago after a painful argument that neither had fully understood or forgiven. The silence between them had stretched for a decade, a vast chasm of unspoken words and unresolved hurt. Evelyn had tried reaching out before, but her messages went unanswered. The fear of rejection kept her frozen, a barrier to healing she couldn't seem to cross. That night, as she stared at the framed photo of Anna as a little girl, Evelyn felt a surge of resolve. The ripple effect she had sparked in her community needed to start at home. She decided it was time to face the past head-on, to break the cycle of silence and pain. The next morning, Evelyn began drafting a letter to Anna. Her hands trembled as she wrote, pouring out her heart with honesty and humility. She acknowledged her mistakes and expressed a deep longing for reconciliation. She didn't expect a response but knew she needed to try. Days passed with no reply, and doubt crept back in. Was it too late? Had she lost her daughter forever? One afternoon, Evelyn found herself watching an interview with Elon Musk, where he spoke about failure, perseverance, and the power of vulnerability. His words resonated deeply. Sometimes, you have to face your failures head-on, admit where you went wrong, and use that as fuel to build something better. Inspired, Evelyn sent a second message, this time inviting Anna to join a video call, not to fix everything at once but simply to reconnect. To her surprise, Anna responded. Their first conversation was awkward and tentative, filled with long pauses and guarded words. But beneath the surface, a flicker of hope glimmered. Over the following weeks, they talked more openly, sharing memories and pain. Evelyn listened without judgment, allowing Anna to express her hurt and anger. She resisted the urge to defend herself, focusing instead on understanding and healing. Slowly, the walls between them began to crumble. The process was neither smooth nor linear. There were setbacks, moments of silence, tears, and frustration. But with each conversation, Evelyn felt a growing lightness in her heart. Forgiveness, she realized, was a gift she gave herself as much as to Anna. This personal breakthrough mirrored the transformation Evelyn had witnessed in others. Just as communities healed through connection and honesty, so too could fractured families mend through courage and compassion. One chilly evening, after a particularly emotional call, Anna surprised Evelyn by sending a photo of herself holding a painting she had done, an abstract piece symbolizing pain and hope intertwined. Evelyn felt tears of joy and relief. Art, like conversation, had become a bridge between their worlds. Emboldened by their progress, Evelyn invited Anna to join one of her Bridges events, where seniors and youth shared stories and creativity. Nervous but hopeful, Anna agreed. The day of the event arrived with golden sunlight filtering through the library windows. Evelyn watched as Anna hesitated at the entrance, then gradually melted into the warm embrace of the community. Watching her daughter engage with others, sharing laughter and stories, Evelyn felt a profound sense of gratitude and renewal. The ripple effect was unfolding in the most intimate way possible, within her own family. As the weeks turned into months, Evelyn and Anna continued to rebuild their relationship, honoring both the past and the future. Evelyn shared her journey publicly, speaking openly about the pain of estrangement and the power of reconciliation. Her vulnerability inspired others to confront their own unresolved wounds. Letters and messages arrived from people who had taken steps toward healing because of her example. Through this process, Evelyn discovered a deeper truth: transformation required courage not only to face external challenges but also to confront the deepest, most painful parts of oneself. It was a journey of radical honesty, acceptance, and love. One night, as Evelyn journaled by the fire, she wrote, "I was never too old to heal. I was never too broken to be whole again." The past was no longer a chain but a foundation, a wellspring of strength and wisdom. And with that foundation, Evelyn stepped boldly into the future, ready to embrace whatever came next with an open heart and unwavering courage. Evelyn awoke to the soft light of dawn spilling through her bedroom window, the familiar comfort of her quiet home wrapping around her like a warm blanket. Yet today, the stillness felt charged with possibility. For months now, she had been navigating the complex terrain of reconciliation and community building, but beneath it all stirred a restless question: what next? What was her deeper purpose beyond healing and connection? As she brewed her morning coffee, her mind drifted back to a quote from Elon Musk she'd recently heard on a podcast: "When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor." Those words echoed in her soul, a call to step into uncharted territory. Evelyn had always been a nurturer, teacher, mother, friend, roles that shaped her identity but also defined boundaries. Now, she sensed a stirring desire to reclaim a more expansive version of herself, one that could innovate, lead, and inspire on a grander scale. That afternoon, Evelyn sat at her desk, surrounded by notebooks filled with ideas and plans. The ripple effect platform she helped build was thriving, yet she felt compelled to launch a new venture, something that merged her passion for storytelling, technology, and empowerment. She envisioned an initiative called Legacy Labs, a creative incubator where older adults could develop projects that harnessed their life experiences into innovations for social good. It was ambitious, and the uncertainty of starting something new at her age both excited and intimidated her. But Evelyn remembered how fear had once held her back, and how embracing risk had sparked transformation. She decided to take the leap. The early days of Legacy Labs were both exhilarating and challenging. Evelyn reached out to her network, securing support from community leaders, tech experts, and artists willing to mentor participants. The first cohort was small but diverse: retirees, veterans, former educators, and artists, all united by a shared desire to make a difference. Workshops combined creative brainstorming with practical skills like digital design and project management. Evelyn found herself energized by the vibrant exchanges, watching participants' ideas evolve from seedling concepts to tangible prototypes. One woman, Carol, a retired nurse, developed a mobile app to connect seniors with volunteer caregivers. Another, Marcus, a former mechanic, designed a sustainable device to assist people with limited mobility. Each story was a testament to the power of purpose rekindled. Evelyn's own role evolved from organizer to cheerleader, coach, and collaborator. She learned to navigate new technologies and leadership challenges, drawing strength from the resilience and creativity around her. The journey wasn't without setbacks: funding hurdles, technical glitches, and moments of self-doubt tested her resolve. But each obstacle became an opportunity to learn and grow. Through it all, Evelyn remembered Elon Musk's fearless embrace of failure as a step toward success. As Legacy Labs gained momentum, Evelyn was invited to speak at conferences and community events. She shared not only the projects emerging from the incubator but also her personal story of reinvention and hope. Audiences connected deeply with her message that purpose could be discovered or rediscovered at any stage of life. Invitations poured in from organizations eager to replicate the model, expanding the ripple effect even further. Amidst the whirlwind of activity, Evelyn carved out quiet moments to reflect. She often walked the tree-lined streets near her home, the crunch of leaves beneath her feet grounding her in the present. She thought about the women and men she'd met, each with a story of loss, resilience, and untapped potential. These encounters fueled her passion and reminded her that purpose wasn't a destination but a living, evolving force. One crisp autumn morning, Evelyn sat with Michael on a park bench, sharing the latest updates from Legacy Labs. Michael smiled warmly, admiration shining in his eyes. "You've transformed not just your life but countless others. This is your breakthrough, Evelyn." She nodded, feeling both humbled and proud. "It's more than I ever imagined. I'm learning that purpose is like a muscle, you have to keep exercising it, pushing beyond comfort zones." That evening, as she prepared for bed, Evelyn pulled out her journal and wrote, "I was never too old to reinvent myself. I was never too late to find new purpose." The words settled like a balm on her soul, a reminder that her journey was far from over. In the weeks that followed, Legacy Labs launched its second cohort, attracting even more participants eager to explore their potential. Evelyn expanded partnerships with universities and nonprofits, integrating research and resources to support aging innovation. Her vision continued to grow, fueled by the belief that age was not a barrier but a catalyst for creativity and impact. Through this process, Evelyn came to understand that reinvention was not about erasing the past but weaving it into a vibrant new tapestry. Every experience, joy, and pain had shaped her unique perspective, a perspective that could inspire others to break free from limiting beliefs and embrace their own breakthroughs. Late one night, Evelyn sat by the window, gazing at the stars scattered across the sky. She felt a profound connection to the vastness above and the journey within. The challenges she had faced, the bridges she had built, and the purpose she had claimed all led to this moment of clarity. Evelyn smiled, knowing that with courage, community, and vision, she could continue rewriting the rules, not just of aging but of life itself. Evelyn's days grew busier as Legacy Labs expanded beyond her initial hopes. The incubator had become a beacon of possibility, attracting not only older adults but younger allies eager to bridge generational divides and challenge ageism. Yet with growth came new challenges. Evelyn quickly learned that breaking barriers required more than passion, it demanded strategic thinking, resilience, and a willingness to confront entrenched attitudes head-on. One morning, Evelyn sat in a sunlit conference room, facing a panel of skeptical investors. They questioned the viability of her vision, doubting whether older adults could truly innovate in a tech-driven world. Their words stung, echoing the very doubts Evelyn had battled internally for years. But she refused to back down. Drawing on her years of experience and the tangible successes of her participants, Evelyn confidently presented compelling data and heartfelt stories. She showcased Carol's caregiving app, now piloted in local communities, and Marcus's mobility device receiving accolades for design innovation. The room shifted, skepticism giving way to intrigue and respect. By the end of the meeting, Evelyn secured funding that would propel Legacy Labs into its next phase. This victory was more than financial, it was symbolic. She was breaking barriers not only for herself but for an entire generation too often dismissed. Back at the lab, Evelyn encouraged participants to embrace bold thinking and experimentation. Failure was reframed as a stepping stone, a mindset inspired by Elon Musk's relentless drive. She shared anecdotes of Musk's early rockets that didn't launch and cars that stalled, emphasizing that innovation thrived on persistence and adaptability. One afternoon, during a workshop, Evelyn watched as a group debated passionately over a project aimed at improving accessibility in public spaces. The room was alive with energy, ideas flowing freely despite differing opinions. Evelyn smiled, witnessing the power of collaboration to break down silos and inspire breakthroughs. Yet, Evelyn understood that breaking barriers extended beyond projects and funding. It meant challenging societal narratives that marginalized aging. She began working with media outlets to spotlight stories of older innovators and advocates, shifting public perception from decline to possibility. Evelyn herself became a sought-after speaker, using her platform to advocate for policy changes that supported lifelong learning and employment opportunities for seniors. Her message was clear: age was not a limit but a resource. Alongside this work, Evelyn nurtured relationships within her community, recognizing that dreams were built on networks of trust and support. She partnered with local colleges to create internship programs pairing students with Legacy Labs participants, fostering mutual learning and respect. These intergenerational exchanges enriched both sides, dissolving stereotypes and building empathy. One crisp evening, Evelyn and Michael attended a gala honoring innovators in aging. As they mingled among dignitaries and changemakers, Evelyn felt a deep sense of belonging and accomplishment. She thought back to the lonely nights and self-doubt, grateful for the journey that had led her here. Michael squeezed her hand, whispering, "You're not just breaking barriers, you're building dreams." Inspired, Evelyn returned to Legacy Labs with renewed vigor. She encouraged participants to dream bigger, to envision impact beyond their immediate communities. Together, they drafted plans for scalable projects addressing global challenges such as climate change, healthcare access, and digital equity. The incubator became a hub of visionary thinking, grounded in lived experience and fueled by unshakable hope. Despite the successes, Evelyn remained grounded in humility and self-care. She carved out time for reflection, nature walks, and quiet moments with Michael. She acknowledged that sustaining momentum required balance and resilience. This awareness allowed her to lead with compassion and clarity, modeling the very qualities she sought to cultivate in others. One morning, Evelyn received a letter from a young woman named Jasmine, who wrote about how Legacy Labs had inspired her grandmother to pursue a lifelong dream of writing a novel. Jasmine's gratitude touched Evelyn deeply, a reminder of the far-reaching impact of her work. This ripple, she realized, extended beyond immediate projects. It was a wave of transformation touching lives in unexpected ways. As Legacy Labs prepared to launch an international partnership, Evelyn felt the weight and wonder of her journey. From a place of isolation and doubt, she had become a catalyst for change, proving that age was not a cage but a key. The barriers she and others faced were not insurmountable walls but challenges to be met with courage, creativity, and connection. Sitting at her desk late one night, Evelyn penned a letter to the next generation of dreamers: never let anyone tell you that your time has passed. The world needs your wisdom, your vision, and your voice. Break barriers, build dreams, and never stop believing in the power of your own breakthrough. With that, she closed her laptop, the quiet hum of possibility filling the room. Evelyn knew that her story, and the stories of so many others, were rewriting the rules of what it meant to grow older. And in doing so, they were lighting the way for a future where age was celebrated as the beginning of new adventures rather than the end. It started with a simple clip, just 90 seconds of Evelyn speaking at a local Legacy Labs event, passionately describing the first time she felt truly seen after 65. She hadn't known someone was filming. Her voice cracked slightly as she shared how walking into a community center workshop that day had felt like stepping out of a fog. No one looked at me like I was broken, she said. They looked at me like I still mattered. The short video was uploaded by a young volunteer named Jada, who titled it, "You're Not Too Old. You're Just Waiting for Permission." Within hours, it had been shared dozens of times. By the next morning, it had over 100,000 views. By the end of the week, it had gone viral across platforms, viewed more than 10 million times, with captions translated into Spanish, Mandarin, Hindi. The comment sections overflowed with gratitude, tears, and stories from people of all ages. "I'm 72. I thought my best years were behind me. But now I'm going back to school. I'm 24 and I needed to hear this today. Evelyn, I haven't spoken to my mom in 6 years. I'm calling her tonight." The video sparked something raw and real across generations, because Evelyn wasn't preaching. She wasn't performing. She was telling the truth. The clip caught the attention of major media outlets. Requests came in for interviews, articles, and even a documentary. Evelyn was stunned. She had never considered herself a public figure, just a woman who'd clawed her way back from the margins of her own life. But now the world was listening. Her phone rang constantly. Podcast hosts, journalists, aging experts, even celebrities reached out to tell her that her story mattered. At first, she tried to keep up, but the whirlwind pace became exhausting. After one particularly long media day, Evelyn collapsed onto her couch, overwhelmed. Michael sat beside her, gently rubbing her back. "You don't have to do everything," he said softly. "You've already done something remarkable. The rest, you get to choose." Evelyn closed her eyes and breathed in those words. He was right. This wasn't about chasing fame or momentum. This was about stewarding a message she believed in. She started turning down some interviews, choosing only the ones where she could speak authentically and share the stories of others from Legacy Labs and the wider community. When she appeared on a major morning show, Evelyn brought 2 participants with her, Carol and Marcus. They told their own stories of starting over, of building something new in a world that had told them their time was up. The host was visibly moved, and afterward, Evelyn received a message from Elon Musk's team: a personal invitation to join a roundtable on innovation and longevity at one of his think tanks in Austin. Evelyn read the message 3 times, unsure if it was real. It was. The thought of sitting at a table with some of the most audacious thinkers on the planet made her palms sweat. But something in her heart said yes. She accepted. The event was unlike anything she'd experienced. The other participants, scientists, futurists, technologists, spoke in rapid bursts, whiteboards filling with sketches of neural networks and longevity curves. And there was Elon, sharp, quiet at times, listening more than talking, but when he spoke, the room leaned in. During a lunch break, Evelyn found herself beside him, both cradling cups of green tea. "You said something once," she began. "About doing things even when the odds aren't in your favor. That stuck with me." Elon glanced at her, a small smile tugging at the edge of his lips. "The odds are never really in anyone's favor. We just get good at ignoring that." Evelyn laughed. "Well, I think some of us have been trained to stop trying once the world decides we've peaked." Elon's expression grew serious. "That's the real problem. We build systems that treat people like batteries. Drain them, toss them. But wisdom? Experience? That's the most valuable data we've got. We're going to need more of it, not less." They talked for 20 minutes about the intersection of aging and innovation. Evelyn didn't pretend to understand all the tech jargon, but she held her ground when it came to people, how change actually happened, how belief spread. Before they parted, Elon said something she would never forget: "You're not just part of the system anymore. You're helping reprogram it." After the summit, Evelyn returned home with a renewed sense of mission. She realized this viral moment wasn't an accident. It was an opening. A once quiet voice was now a megaphone, and she intended to use it wisely. She began developing a series of digital workshops called Rewrite, offering guidance and tools for people over 60 to reclaim purpose and rewrite their next chapter. The curriculum included self-reflection, tech skill building, storytelling, and community building. Demand was overwhelming. Within 3 months, Rewrite had over 50,000 sign-ups from every continent. And yet, despite the reach, Evelyn never lost sight of the individual. She responded to as many personal messages as she could, each one a small spark, a life leaning forward. One evening, a letter arrived from a man named Arthur in rural Nebraska. He was 88 years old. The letter, handwritten and slightly shaky, said, "I lost my wife last year. I've been alone. Most days I just sit in the same chair. But I saw your video. I remembered something. When I was young, I carved wooden toys. I stopped 50 years ago. Yesterday, I carved a duck. My hands hurt, but I smiled. Thank you." Evelyn held the letter to her chest and cried. This was why it mattered. Not for views. Not for headlines. But because one woman's truth had given someone else permission to move. To create. To live. And the ripples continued. Evelyn was invited to collaborate with researchers studying the psychological effects of late-life purpose. Her story became a case study. She spoke at universities, sometimes nervously, sometimes tearfully. But always honestly. When asked what surprised her most about going viral, she paused and said, that the world is starving for stories that say it's not too late. On the anniversary of the video going live, the Legacy Labs team hosted a global live stream celebration called Still Rising. Seniors across the globe shared what they had started in the last 12 months: songs, inventions, gardens, nonprofits, letters, friendships, reconciliations. The event was emotional and electric. As Evelyn took the final speaking spot, she looked directly into the camera and said, "I used to believe that aging was a quiet fading. But now I know, it can be a crescendo. If you're still breathing, you're still becoming. You're still rising." The screen flooded with comments. Fire emojis. Heart emojis. Messages of gratitude. Evelyn stepped back, tears on her cheeks, breath catching in her throat. She wasn't just watching a ripple anymore. She was standing in the middle of a wave. And the wave was just getting started. Evelyn sat alone in the community library's back room, lights dimmed except for the desk lamp glowing warmly over stacks of notebooks. The walls around her were covered in pinned-up sketches, flowcharts, and post-it notes, each a building block in the blueprint she was quietly crafting. Not for legacy labs. Not for another workshop. But for something even more ambitious. A replicable, open-source model that could allow any city, town, or neighborhood in the world to build their own version of what she'd started. She wasn't interested in legacy as a name on a plaque. She wanted a living legacy, one that could evolve, travel, and take root in places she'd never touch herself. It wasn't about being remembered. It was about creating systems that remembered people. The model would include digital curriculum kits, volunteer onboarding guides, partnership playbooks, and community engagement strategies, all based on what she and her team had tested, refined, and proven could work. They'd call it the Ripple Framework. Evelyn smiled at the name. Ripples were what had started everything. As she worked, her mind wandered back to the small beginnings, that first uncomfortable step into a community center, the blank stares she feared, the shame she'd carried about growing older. And now, she was building a framework to dismantle that shame, one toolkit at a time. Evelyn decided to pilot the Ripple Framework in 3 very different communities, a retirement village in Arizona, a rural town in Kansas, and an inner-city neighborhood in Detroit. Each location had unique challenges and cultures, but each was also rich with untapped stories and forgotten wisdom. She traveled to each place personally. In Arizona, she sat in a shaded courtyard, sipping iced tea with a group of women who had once worked in aerospace, education, and logistics. "We used to manage thousands of people," one said, chuckling. "Now they treat us like we don't know how to use a calendar app." Evelyn listened deeply, then walked them through the Ripple materials. Within days, they'd organized their own version of Legacy Labs, complete with a welcome video and weekly meetups. In Kansas, she met with a group of farmers, many retired, many grieving the loss of their way of life. They were quiet at first. But when Evelyn asked, "What's something you used to build that brought you pride?" their stories came pouring out. By the end of the week, they were prototyping simple climate-adaptive farming tools for youth education. In Detroit, Evelyn partnered with a local nonprofit and a church to set up storytelling circles. The elders there, many of whom had seen both civil rights victories and personal losses, began collaborating with high school students on oral history podcasts. The intergenerational energy was electric. Evelyn made sure to stay hands-off enough to allow each site to find its own rhythm. The framework wasn't a franchise. It was a formula for freedom: identify your local talent, honor lived experience, foster creativity, and then, get out of the way. Within months, other communities began requesting the Ripple materials. A team of volunteers, led by some of the earliest Legacy Labs participants, helped digitize and translate everything into multiple languages. Suddenly, what had started as Evelyn's personal revival was a global movement. But growth came with growing pains. One afternoon, during a review meeting with her core team, an argument broke out. Some wanted the Ripple framework to become a brand, with strict quality control, training certifications, and even licensing fees. Evelyn listened quietly, then said, "We're not building a business. We're building permission. Don't put walls around something that was born to break them down." There was silence. Then nods. No one argued again. The movement wasn't about protecting a product. It was about trusting people. Still, Evelyn knew the framework needed structure to endure. She worked with a team of advisors, including educators, technologists, and even a few retired policymakers, to create a nonprofit foundation that would provide light-touch guidance and resources. They named it Ripple Impact. Donations began to come in, and Evelyn, always wary of becoming the face of anything, insisted the foundation be run by a council of multi-generational leaders. She accepted a seat, but not the head. Instead, she focused on fieldwork, visiting new sites, documenting stories, refining the playbooks. She called it her listening tour. Everywhere she went, people asked her the same thing: what made you believe you could do this at your age? Evelyn never had a perfect answer. Sometimes she'd laugh and say, delusion. Other times, she'd quote Elon Musk, when you're building the future, you can't wait for someone else to start it. But the truth was simpler than that. She hadn't believed she could do it. She had just started. In the quiet of her home office one evening, Evelyn reviewed footage from a recent visit to a community center in New Orleans. A man named Robert, 84, stood on a makeshift stage, holding a microphone with trembling hands. "I was told I had nothing left to offer," he said. "But last month, I helped my grandson build a solar-powered radio for school. He said, 'Grandpa, you're a genius.' And I believed him." Evelyn wiped her eyes. That moment was the whole point. She wrote in her notebook, "A blueprint is nothing without belief. A plan is just paper until someone dares to pick it up." The media continued to follow her work. A streaming platform approached her about turning the Ripple story into a documentary series. She agreed, under one condition: it had to spotlight the stories of others, not just her own. "The point isn't that I did something extraordinary," she told the producer. "It's that what we call extraordinary is often just ordinary people finally getting a chance to be seen." The series, Still Becoming, debuted in the fall and quickly gained critical acclaim. Viewers from all walks of life responded to the authenticity and emotional power of watching people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s rediscover their voice and impact. The final episode ended with Evelyn's speech at the Ripple Global Gathering, standing on a simple stage in front of thousands, many of whom had flown in from countries she'd never visited, all part of the growing network of Ripple communities. She looked out at the sea of faces: gray hair, walkers, canes, laughter, tears, wide eyes, and said, "We didn't need anyone's permission to matter. But we gave it to each other anyway. This isn't a blueprint for aging. It's a blueprint for living." She stepped down from the stage to thunderous applause. Not for her. For the movement. For the people who had said yes to themselves again. Later that night, Evelyn sat beside Michael on the balcony of their small rental apartment, the city buzzing below. They shared a quiet toast, just the two of them. "You changed everything," he said. She shook her head. "No. I just stopped pretending it was too late." A cool wind swept across the balcony, and she looked up at the stars. Somewhere, someone she would never meet was opening the Ripple kit for the first time. Somewhere, a person who felt invisible was about to speak. Evelyn closed her eyes and smiled. The blueprint was working. The future was already unfolding. For all the external battles Evelyn had faced, skeptics, funding barriers, societal doubt, she hadn't anticipated how hard it would be to face the one forming silently inside herself. At night, she began waking with a tightness in her chest, a creeping anxiety she couldn't quite name. During the day, she moved with purpose, attending meetings, replying to messages, smiling for cameras. But underneath, a quiet voice had returned. Not loud. Not cruel. Just persistent: "You're tired. You've done enough. Let someone younger take it from here." It didn't sound like surrender. It sounded like common sense. But Evelyn knew better. The greatest resistance wasn't out there, it was inside. The truth was, she was tired. She missed the stillness of her early mornings when there weren't meetings stacked back to back. She missed walking through her neighborhood without someone stopping her with a story. She missed her quiet life with Michael: puzzles, tea, laughter over nothing. And most of all, she feared becoming the very thing she had fought so hard to free others from: someone trapped by their own image. In early spring, she sat across from her daughter Anna, now a regular presence in her life. They had shared countless conversations and even collaborated on some Ripple projects. But today, Evelyn didn't talk about expansion or milestones. She confessed the heaviness in her chest. "I feel like I'm being pulled in too many directions," she said. "Everyone expects me to lead. But I don't always feel like a leader. Sometimes I just want to be a person." Anna reached across the table, placing her hand over her mother's. "You don't have to be everything to everyone. You were enough before all of this. You're still enough now." Evelyn blinked back tears. That night, she told Michael, "Maybe it's time I step back." Michael didn't try to talk her out of it. He simply said, "Then let's figure out how you can step back without stepping away from yourself." They spent the next few days walking trails near their home, talking less about logistics and more about meaning. What had this journey truly been about? What parts of it still sparked joy? What could she release? What must she protect? It was during one of these walks that Evelyn stumbled upon a quiet realization. Her deepest joy hadn't come from accolades or media attention. It had come from witnessing someone's eyes light up when they realized they still had something to offer. That spark, that moment of internal ignition, was everything. And maybe now her role was to protect that flame without having to stand in the fire all the time. Evelyn made a bold decision: she would no longer serve as the public face of Ripple Impact. She would move into a mentoring role, guiding new leaders, helping refine strategy, but stepping out of the spotlight. It wasn't retirement. It was recentering. She announced the decision in a heartfelt video, filmed not in a studio, but from her own kitchen, cup of coffee in hand, hair casually pulled back. "I've spent the last few years telling you all it's never too late to begin again," she said. "And now I'm living that truth again, by beginning a new chapter where I get to be more present in my own life, while still supporting this movement that means so much to me." The response was overwhelming, and supportive. People didn't see her decision as quitting. They saw it as evolution. Leaders from within the Ripple network stepped up, energized and ready. The foundation was solid. The movement would not crumble without her in front. In stepping back, Evelyn began noticing things she'd missed. The way sunlight filtered through her living room curtains. The scent of lavender from the garden outside. The gentle rise and fall of Michael's breath as he napped beside her. Life, in its quiet detail, had returned to her like an old friend. But stepping back didn't mean disappearing. She still mentored. Still met with innovators and storytellers. She just did it on her terms. In small rooms, over tea, by phone. She didn't chase the next big thing. She waited for what mattered to find her. And it did. One day, a letter arrived from a women's collective in Nairobi. They'd used the Ripple framework to build a sewing cooperative that now employed 30 women over the age of 50, many of whom had been widowed and left without income. Their letter included photos, rows of women laughing over sewing machines, children playing in the background, and a banner that read, "Still Becoming." Evelyn stared at the images, heart swelling. Another time, she received a voice message from an inmate at a state prison who had watched the Still Becoming series. "I'm 63, he said. And I didn't think I could matter anymore. But now I'm mentoring some of the younger guys here. I started a book club. It's not much, but it's something. Thank you." In these quieter days, Evelyn also returned to an old love, writing. Not speeches or reports. But reflections. Essays. Stories. She began compiling a collection of essays titled The Second Fire, a nod to the inner flame that reignites after everyone else assumes it's burned out. She wrote about failure, forgiveness, regret, courage, grief, and joy. Her voice was raw, unfiltered, wise. She didn't write to teach. She wrote to remember. And to give others something to hold on to when their own voices felt small. One afternoon, she received a package from a small press that had decided to publish the second fire in both print and audio. They had sent her the first copy, bound in soft gray linen, her name gently embossed on the front. She held it close, not out of pride, but gratitude. She had found her center again. Evelyn often ended her days now with a quiet walk through the local park. Children played, older couples held hands, joggers passed with nods of recognition. She was still recognized often, but now people approached her gently, more as a companion than a figurehead. "You help me remember I still have time," one woman said. Evelyn smiled. "We all do. Until we don't." One evening, Anna joined her for a walk. They spoke about ordinary things, recipes, the weather, upcoming birthdays. At one point, Anna stopped walking and looked at her mother. "You know what I realized? All those years I was angry at you. I think I was just afraid you'd given up on yourself. But you didn't. You didn't just come back. You changed everything." Evelyn swallowed hard. "I thought I had to wait for the world to believe in me first. But it turns out, I was the one holding the keys the whole time." As the sky turned shades of orange and gold, they walked on, two women who had nearly lost each other to silence and pain, now walking in step, in peace. Evelyn wasn't leading a movement anymore. But the movement was still moving. Because what she had really built wasn't a company, or a brand, or even a framework. She had built belief. The kind that lives in kitchens and quiet corners. In workshops and whispers. In the hearts of people brave enough to rise again. And in doing so, she had proven the most radical truth of all: the resistance within can be met, and overcome, not by shouting it down, but by sitting with it. Listening. And then choosing, day by day, to keep becoming. Evelyn was folding laundry when it arrived, just another Tuesday, the scent of jasmine drifting in through the kitchen window, NPR murmuring in the background. She noticed the envelope by its weight before anything else. It was thicker than the usual letters, the paper a matte, heavy cream stock with no return address but her name handwritten in crisp black ink. Curious, she wiped her hands on a towel and opened it carefully. Inside was a single sheet and a small metal token, sleek, silver, embossed with a minimalist lightning bolt. The letter was short. Clear. Direct. And signed by Elon Musk. "Evelyn, I've followed your work more than you realize. What you've built isn't just impressive, it's foundational. A prototype for something the world desperately needs: purpose at scale. Purpose without an expiration date. We're entering a new era, faster than most are ready for. AI will change everything. The jobs, the systems, the rhythms of society. But one thing it can't replace is wisdom. And that's where you come in. We're building something. Not public. Not corporate. Experimental. Quiet for now. We want you to see it. And maybe help shape it. There's a jet waiting Friday. If you're open to it, instructions are below. No pressure. But I think you'll want to be part of this." Evelyn read the letter 3 times before sitting down. Her hands trembled, not with fear, but with something else, exhilaration, perhaps. A door had opened. A new threshold. She hadn't asked for it. Hadn't even imagined it. But it was here. She showed the letter to Michael that evening. He read it silently, then handed it back to her. "You're going, right?" She nodded. "I think I have to." Friday came quickly. The jet, a sleek, silent machine with no markings, picked her up from a small private airfield an hour outside the city. There was no luxury, no frills. Just functionality. A young man named Leo greeted her aboard. Polite. Crisp. "We'll be in Texas within the hour." No one said SpaceX, or Tesla, or Neuralink. Everything was vague, but meticulously arranged. Upon landing, Evelyn was driven through open plains and eventually into a discreet, high-security facility carved into the earth itself. It looked like an art museum metadata center, quiet, intentional, eerily beautiful. Elon met her in a long hallway, his presence calm and steady. "Thanks for coming," he said. "This way." No small talk. Just purpose. They walked past several glass-walled rooms, each filled with activity, engineers sketching on tablets, older adults collaborating with AI systems, brain interface devices being tested by seniors in lab chairs. But these weren't patients. They were partners. Evelyn's breath caught. "What is all this?" Elon turned to her. "It's called Oracle. The idea is simple. The next leap forward in artificial intelligence must include intergenerational intelligence. We don't just need smarter systems, we need wiser ones. And that means training AI not just on data scraped from the internet, but on human memory. Experience. Long-view thinking. Context only time can teach." Evelyn stared at one lab where a woman in her 70s sat across from a humanoid AI assistant. They were reviewing a virtual family tree, mapping generational health patterns, overlaying them with climate data and supply chain histories. "She's teaching it," Elon said. "And in return, it's amplifying her." Evelyn couldn't believe what she was seeing. "You're building a symbiotic intelligence network, from elders?" "Exactly," he said. "Ripple caught our attention because it proved something vital: people don't stop evolving. And evolution isn't linear. When someone reignites their sense of purpose later in life, it's like opening an encrypted file no one thought was valuable anymore. But the data inside is priceless." They walked into a room with soft lighting and circular chairs. A round table. A council. 8 people already sat there, some gray-haired, others visibly younger, all alert and focused. Elon said, "This is our pilot advisory team. We're calling it the Continuum." The group nodded. One woman reached out a hand. "You're the one from Legacy Labs, right? You changed everything for me." They sat for hours discussing ethical implications, design principles, human dignity. Evelyn asked hard questions. How do we protect consent? How do we ensure this isn't just digital colonization of elder stories? How do we avoid AI reinforcing age bias by accident? And she didn't just ask. She offered ideas, cautions, vision. Elon watched, interjected occasionally, but mostly listened. He wasn't the star of this room. Wisdom was. Evelyn spent 3 days inside Oracle. She saw neural scaffolding models co-created with centenarians. She saw veterans teaching AI emotional nuance through battlefield memory. She saw musicians in their 80s scoring adaptive soundscapes for meditation apps using biometric feedback. It was, in every sense, breathtaking. And it wasn't just theory. It was working. She met a man named Gabriel, 79, who had lost his wife 3 years earlier. He volunteered to work with Oracle's Grief Interface project, an AI that helped train palliative caregivers in empathy and memory-based response. "It doesn't try to replace her," Gabriel told Evelyn. "It just helps me make sense of the empty space she left behind." Evelyn cried with him. Hugged him. Promised to tell his story. When it was time to leave, Elon walked her back to the car. The sun was setting over the Texas hills, casting long shadows and a golden hue across the field. "So," he said. "Do you think it's crazy?" Evelyn looked at him, then out across the horizon. "No. I think it's necessary. But I also think it needs soul. And it needs people who remember what it means to forget." Elon nodded. "That's why you're here." Back home, Evelyn barely spoke for 2 days. She journaled. Walked. Sat under the stars. It was as if she had glimpsed the edge of a new world, and now had to decide what role she wanted to play in it. She didn't want to lead Oracle. But she knew she had something vital to offer: stewardship, integrity, emotional clarity, and most of all, trust. In the weeks that followed, she agreed to consult part-time, helping build ethical frameworks and onboarding processes for elder partners. She created what she called wisdom protocols, ensuring that elders contributing to Oracle were protected, compensated, and celebrated. She also designed reflection circles, structured conversations where participants could process their impact, emotionally and spiritually. It wasn't just about extracting knowledge. It was about honoring the giver. News of her involvement with Oracle leaked months later. Journalists scrambled for comment, but Evelyn issued only a simple statement: technology must not accelerate us past our humanity. It must deepen it. That's the future I'm working toward. The statement was printed in newspapers and blogs across the world. A quote card with her image was shared millions of times. Yet Evelyn remained grounded. The laundry still needed folding. The garden still needed weeding. And Michael still made her laugh until her stomach hurt. One evening, as they sat watching the sunset, Evelyn whispered, "I didn't expect any of this." Michael smiled. "You didn't need to. You just needed to keep saying yes." And so, she did. Quietly. Boldly. With eyes wide open. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?